Welcome. Welcome to Satsang. And so beautiful to be back together after our International Yoga Festival. For those of you who were coming to Satsang prior to the festival and are back, welcome back. For those of you who are here newly, welcome. This is it's a very sacred and special time. The Sanskrit word satsang literally means in the presence of truth, in the association of truth. And it's not me up here giving a lecture or teaching a class to you, the students. It's all of us together diving into truth. That eternal, supreme, unchanging truth of who we are that we forget, that we get disconnected from. So the questions that come up, the questions that you ask, are questions through which together. You may think it's just your question. You may think, oh, this is my personal question. And yet that personal question becomes the way, the path through which all of us experience truth. We begin with a question that has come in advance from our audience joining us from around the world who connect online, connect through social media and YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and all of the beautiful technologies we've been given to connect with people who aren't physically here. Questions come in by email in so many ways. We'll start with one and then open it up to any question that any of you here have. How do we move past unpleasant thoughts or experiences? The nature of nature is change. It's like saying, how do I move past this wave in the ocean? You just stay in one place. The wave's going to move. It's the nature of the waves of the ocean. How do you move past this night? You just stay in one place. You don't actually have to do anything. The sun is going to rise automatically. The nature of nature is change, and that's not only the external nature, but that's the internal nature as well. And so our thoughts are just waves. They arise, they're there for a moment, and they go. You can think of them like bubbles, like kids play bubbles and they blow bubbles, and there's a bubble and it exists for a moment and then it pops. And then they blow more and there's more bubbles and they exist for a moment and then they pop. It's the nature of it. You wouldn't say, how do I get rid of this bubble? Just wait a moment. It'll pop. It's what bubbles do. The problem with thoughts is that we actually hold on to them. It's not the thought itself that stays. It's that the mind grabs onto that pattern of thought because it's a habit, because it gets something out of it. Being negative and judgmental, and it's really fun, and it, makes us temporarily feel really good about ourselves, so we keep doing it. Holding grudges and being angry. It's a good rush of endorphins. Gives us something to think about that makes us feel very both righteous and also victimized. So if we are not deliberately, consciously or unconsciously, deliberately recreating the same thought over and over and over again, it pops like a bubble. So if you want to get through a particular thought, just stop recreating it. Because the individual thought is there and it goes, it's there and it goes, it's there and it goes. But if you find that you keep recreating the same thought, it's like if you get food poisoning. Okay? You ate something bad, something happened, you throw up, you've got some diarrhea, the body cleanses, and you automatically feel better. Sometimes it's half a day, sometimes it's a day. But automatically that which is in you that is detrimental to the system will find its way out. And then you're better. Until and unless you go back and eat that same thing again. And so if you knew that you'd gotten food poisoning and you'd been up all night sick from something you ate, you'd really have to ask yourself why you would go back to that place and eat that same food over and over again. Like, what is it that's propelling you to be sick? And in the same way, okay, you have a thought, anger, jealousy, greed, resentment, frustration, judgment. Happens to all of us. It arises, it's there, it pops. Just a moment. But if you find that you keep creating these, then you've really got to ask yourself, why am I doing this? It's not one thought that doesn't go away. It's that I keep creating more and more thoughts around the same subject. And if I know it's hurting me, why am I doing it? So to get through it, all you've got to do is be there. Like the night turns to day, like the waves move, the thoughts arise, they pop, they are over. But you need to be conscious and present enough, mindful enough, to be aware if you keep generating the same ones. Where are they coming from? Why are you doing this? What is the thought manufacturing factory within you that keeps sending you down that path? And in terms of getting through negative experiences, well, it's actually the same. Whether it's an internal experience or an external experience, it's happening in my mind or it's happening in the world around me. It's going to change. Nature of nature. Hate winter? No problem. Just sit tight for a little while. It'll become spring then summer. Hate summer? No problem. Sit tight for a little while. It'll become autumn and then winter. Whatever you're going through, the key is always just be there, be present with it. Don't try to push it away, because we cannot actually push away thoughts. All you can do is have a better one. But if I say, I'm not going to think about chocolate cake, okay? Just try that. Not going to think about chocolate cake. Whatever you're going to do, just don't think about chocolate cake. No chocolate cake. Push it out of your mind. Right? So what happens? All the mind is full of is chocolate cake. You can't push it away. And in the same way, you can't push away experience. We're not here on earth to push life away. The way that I like to think about it is, so here's a glass of water. Let's call this your experience of yourself, your experience of your life, your world. Now, rocks fall in the glass. We'll call that negative life experiences, life happening to us. I'm holding this glass under an avalanche. Rocks are falling. It's going to cause the glass, the water, to splash all over the place. That's how most of us live. In that experience of life happens and we spill all over the place. Lots of waves, lots of turbulence. What most of us try to do is push those rocks away. We're in the glass trying to do this. But instead, since you can't actually do that, all you can do is shut yourself down, and that's obviously not what we're here for. Instead, if you dropped those same rocks, instead of in the glass, if you dropped them in the ocean, what would happen? Right? Would it overflow its edges? Would there be a lot of turmoil? Big waves? They'd fall. Tiny little ripple. Barely noticeable. And certainly not noticeable at all if you were down in the depths of the ocean. And so the key to getting through life's bad experiences, negative experiences, dealing with them, is become the ocean. Just realize you're not a glass, you're the ocean. And yeah, annoying people happen. Fires happen. Illnesses happen. Getting fired from jobs happens. Stock market crashes happen. People you love betraying you, abusing you, harming you, it happens. But if you're the ocean, then those rocks fall. It's not that we are numbing ourselves. It's not that we're in denial or we're repressing it or pushing it away. You're just expanding your experience of self. And this is a practice that I found on so many personal levels, so many times, where the mind feels so troubled, typically by sort of either or situations. You're stuck in this bind. And what you realize is the answer is not to push something away. The answer is not to somehow try to fix the bind, but to realize that there's actually enough spaciousness in you for it all to exist. We swim in the ocean. We love the ocean. And there are sharks. And there's jellyfish. And you can melt into the waves. You can float on the waves. You can merge into the ocean. We dive deep. And there's sharks. And there's jellyfish. And we bathe in ecstasy in the ocean. And it's just about there being a spaciousness in which, yeah, this is happening. And it's not the only thing happening. There's a spaciousness in me in which this can also be happening. And my awareness and my joy and my experience and my truth and my love is also happening. So focus on that. Just think, I'm not a glass, I'm the ocean. And this too shall pass. It's a wave in the ocean, whatever it may be. But I'm not the wave, I'm the ocean. Questions? Yes.
Thank you, Sadhviji. It's believed that the purpose of life is...
Can you speak just a little louder or hold the mic a little closer maybe?
It's believed that the purpose of life is self-realization.
I'm so sorry, I cannot... Sorry.
It's believed that the purpose of life is self-realization, or to know who you are. Once this is achieved, what then? I think my question is, what is the purpose of self-realization?
What is the purpose of self-realization? Well, let's look at the alternative for a moment. Let's look at the unrealized self. We live in ignorance of who we are, and therefore of what to do in the world, how to move through the world. We therefore, in that ignorance, we identify ourselves based on the physical body, what it looks like, its size, its shape, its color, its bank account, its job, its history. And so we suffer. We suffer because we are never beautiful enough, successful enough, rich enough, popular enough, happy enough. That's the nature of that ignorance. If I identify as the body, I'm constantly looking around me at who is more beautiful. I'm constantly looking at the self as not beautiful enough. I'm suffering. And when I get angry at it, I'm bringing suffering to others. When someone I see I think is more beautiful than I am and I feel jealous, then I bring suffering to others. Greed, lust, competition, abuse, war, violence, It all arises out of ignorance. So the alternative to self-realization is suffering for ourselves and that which we bring to others. So the purpose of self-realization, at the bare minimum, is it is the only antidote to suffering. When I realize that who I am isn't separate from God, that who I am is not the body, as Bhagavan Krishna says so beautifully in the Gita, that who you are cannot be burned by fire, cut with knives, dried by the wind, wet with water. So when I realize I am not this body, and that who I am isn't separate from the divine, well, that means that who I am is whole, is complete, is purna. That's the meaning of this mantra that Shreya sang so beautifully. Purnamada, Purnamidam, Purnat Purnamudachyate, Purnasya Purnamadaya, Purnameva Vishishyate. That, the capital T that, the divine, the supreme that, whatever word or name we use, is infinite. This, created out of that, therefore is infinite. It's math 101, right? Infinity minus 10. Infinity divided by 8 billion, right? So when I realize the self, then my suffering ends. I stop bringing suffering to the world. And then I become this vehicle, this vessel, this channel of healing to the world. You look at all of the embodiments of the divine we have in our culture, whether the actual divine on earth, Bhagavan Krishna, Bhagavan Ram, right? All of these actual divine beings who came onto earth, or whether we look at sages and saints and rishis who attained enlightenment, whether you look at the Buddha, after attaining enlightenment, what do they all do? Whether the divine incarnated on earth, whether those who meditate for years and attain it, either way, what do? They serve. They serve. They don't say, oh, I'm done, let's have pizza. Graduation party. They serve. So our realization is, you could say, a means to an end. On the one hand, it is the end in terms of this is what we are here on earth to have. But as long as we have a body, that body has this beautiful opportunity to then use that realization. That I realize I'm not separate from you, which means your hunger is my hunger. Your thirst is my thirst. Your pain is my pain. And so I respond to your hunger, your thirst, the same way I would if it were in my body. This is why the masters, they serve. They give and they give and they give and they give. Because they are one. Excuse me. Other questions? Yes. आपके पीछे, हाँ.
Thank you, first of all. Pranam. In Gita, when Krishna ji is telling Arjuna that don't worry, you were existing all throughout previous lives, and the people whom you think that they are yours, they were existing in previous lives and they will continue to exist in future also. So don't worry and do your karma. And because you are an ordinary being, so you don't know. They were existing in different bodies. But because I am the Supreme Lord, so I know. I don't find it convincing. I mean, it's difficult.
No problem.
Thank you.
So here's one of my favorite things. You can access truth through whatever path's available for you. You want to go in through science? You want to go in through the rational mind? No problem. You can go in through faith? No problem. Different people are able to access in different ways. I would never say, you just must believe. However, forget your past lives for a moment. Let's look at this purely scientifically. What's your earliest memory? What's the earliest that you remember in your life? Mike Denonko? What's the earliest memory that you remember in your life?
Maybe 5 years.
Okay,
6
great.
years.
No problem. Let's 5, 6 years. And do you remember being 5, 6 years and having toys or games or cookies or something like that?
Yes.
Okay, great. So when you had them, you must have thought, these are mine. Right?
Yes, of course.
Now, when you think about being 5 or 6, can you just take a moment and go back to that memory and feel that sense of, yes, me, I am this 5 or 6-year-old being. Okay, can you feel that for a moment?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Now, think about yourself in your 20s. Choose any year in your 20s, it doesn't matter. Okay, can you have a memory of that
Sure.
time?
Sure.
Great. Now close your eyes and go back to that moment. Put yourself in that experience of this is me. Or this is mine. Okay? Now, fast forward another 5, 7, 8, 10 years, whatever it may be. Think of another memory. Put yourself in that moment. I am. Okay. Now, you can think of all of the times when you said I, or you said mine, meaning belonging to I. From the time you were 5, how old are you now?
I'm nearly 50 plus.
50 plus, okay. So, how many times has your physical body changed in the last 45 plus years since you remember being 5?
I think since I have become more conscious,
Not your body. How many times has your body changed?
it is changing all the time.
Constantly, right? Exactly.
Constantly. Yeah.
Constantly. Skin cells are sloughing off and regenerating every few days.
Correct.
The internal organs, it takes 7, 8, 9 years.
It's true.
But we're in a constant state of change. And yet, did you ever lose a sense of continuity of I?
No.
You get sunburned, your skin peels. Do you feel like I've gone someplace? Let me wait for the skin to regenerate, then again I will know who I am. So there's, even within your one life, your body keeps changing.
Correct.
You don't have one cell on your body today who was there when you were 5.
Correct.
What's continuous?
I being me being
Huh, who is that? What's continuous? What's there? I don't want to put you on the spot. It's not a quiz. This is the question to meditate on. We'll deal with life after life later on. First, at least have the awareness of who is it who keeps taking new bodies in this lifetime? Who is it who's not my body? Who's not a kindergartner? Who's not a baseball player? Who's not a college student? Who's not a banker or a son or a husband or a father? Who is that? Because you were saying I long before you were any of those things. And you'll be saying I long after you get fired or retire and leave the job. Long after the relationships have ended, either because they've died or you've died, or they left you or you left them. What is it that's consistent? Meditate on that. That'll give you the felt sense experience of what Bhagavan Krishna is talking about. You're not the body. Because when you ultimately leave the body, it's just the final change in form. It's just another change. When you take a new body, it's just another change. But do that as your personal experience. If you don't have that internal sense of bhakti that just says, oh, he says it, I believe it, no problem. You can enter the river however you want. You may be more a Gyan yogi. Don't worry, bhakti will blossom in you. Because just like the more you learn about people you meet, the more you start to love them. You know, in India we have arranged marriages. People can't believe that works. Like, how is that even possible? We think, well, first I have to love, and then the rest is possible. But actually, interestingly, there's a very, very successful tradition of entering bhakti through Gyan. First you learn about them. You begin slowly, slowly learning about them as you live together. And then slowly, 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 that love blossoms. You begin by serving them. In this new marriage, you begin by serving. All right, what do you want for breakfast? And as you serve, you start to love more. So don't worry how you get into the river. You want to get in through that personal experience, the meditative experience, the experience of Gyan, beautiful. No problem.
Thank you. Thanks.
Of course.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Very nice. Thank you.
Other questions? Yeah.
Thank you, Sadhviji. My pranam to you. I've got a simple question that our scriptures say that after a lot of good work, we come to this human life. And my question is that every year our population is increasing. And in Kali Yuga, if we compare 50 years, 100 years ago, the truthfulness, the honesty, and the good deed of the people were tremendous, but it has decreased. We have seen all. But how the population has increased, that means, is that animals are becoming human beings?
Great question. So, yeah, there's a spiritual evolution that takes place. It's not quite always as linear or as predictable as Darwinian evolution. I mean, we can look at Darwinian evolution and we can say, here we were an amoeba, then here we became a multi-celled organism, then here we were in the water, then here we came on land, then here we started to walk on two legs. Spiritual evolution depends on your own karma, your own actions. What you do now in this moment determines your next moments. Ultimately determines your next incarnation. So, first of all, I actually think that a lot of people, I disagree that there used to be more truthfulness, that there used to be more of that. I think in psychology you learn about all sorts of biases that we have. And one of the biases that's really, really common is we tend to assume that that which is breaking news, headline news, trending on social media, is actually that which is most common. So if you ask people, for example, are you more likely to die in an airplane crash or a car crash? People actually are much more afraid about getting on airplanes than they are about getting in cars. And your chance of dying in an airplane crash is nothing compared to your chance of dying in a car crash. But car crashes don't make news. Airplane crashes do. So we think that that which we hear about is actually that which is common. Corruption scandals are headline news. Good people doing nice things, sadly, is not. I will say on that level, though, that I really recommend that everybody really think about who you follow on social media or what news network you're getting things from. Like, how important are all of the facts compared to how important is your worldview? The only news that I get is from a wonderful site called the Good News Network. I love it. I mean, it's beautiful stuff. Every day, people doing great things. Ordinary people. But we don't hear about it. So first of all, I don't actually think that globally truthfulness is on the decline. I think we absolutely have an uprising of blatant, calculated, oppression, a calculated, systematic corruption. That if you look simply at numbers, yes, it's more than we used to, but that's also because the population is more. But it's actually very few people compared to the number of people who are living honest lives, doing the best they can. That being said, if you look at nature, Nature behaves actually much better than we do. Right? I mean, humans are the only species who kill another for any reason other than to eat it or because that other being is threatening their lives. That's the only reason animals kill anyone or any other animal. They're hungry, they need to eat it, or they are threatened by you physically, their life or their babies' lives. Humans are the only one who kill others for any other reason. So the idea that animals are accruing positive karmic fruits doesn't seem to me far-fetched at all. I mean, haven't you ever interacted with an animal who you just feel is so close to being human? Who may seem even more human than many of the humans you know? So the fact that they are then taking human birth, I mean, we know this is how ultimately evolution happens. But on another level, all of that is predicated upon actually an illusion. And the illusion is that there is a finite number of souls. And that somehow we're kind of juggling around like, okay, you're an elephant this life, and if you're good, you can be a human next life. And you were a human, but you messed it up, so you're an earthworm. And, that we're moving pieces around on a board. And it isn't actually like that. Think more about an ocean and waves. There isn't a finite number of waves that can exist in an ocean, even at any given time, if the ocean were infinite. Even in our non-infinite oceans, there's still probably almost an infinite number of waves that could exist. But if you imagine the ocean was infinite, there's not actually lots of souls. There's actually one soul that is manifesting at different intersections of time and space, in different forms, taking different bodies, like a wave emerges temporarily out of the ocean and then comes back. Or in our case, it emerges and then it's another wave and then another wave, and eventually it goes back into the ocean. So don't boggle your mind on, where are all these souls coming from? We're never going to run out. Let every being evolve. And that's the goal. When we chant and we pray, Sarve bhavantu sukhina, Sarve santu niramaya, Sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhaved. When we pray, may all beings be happy, be healthy, reach their highest potential. We are praying that all beings may reach their highest potential. Awareness, awakening, enlightenment, realization, moksha, divine love, union, whatever word we use. So let everyone attain that state. Beautiful. Have a beautiful rest of your evening. A beautiful morning and day to our family joining us from all over the world. we'll now be again having satsang each evening. And I look so forward to being together with you all again tomorrow. So much love.